Hello, everyone, and welcome into Jack's Mailbag, the series where I answer your Gamecock athletics questions. If you have a question you want answered on next week's episode, be sure to drop in the comments section below on this YouTube video, or I'll have a post on the Insiders Forum on GamecockCentral.com where you can ask any of your questions that you have. This week, we're going to be talking a lot about the coaching search that is finally at an end. South Carolina on Tuesday officially hired Paul Mainieri as the next head coach of South Carolina baseball, along with a brand new coaching staff, which includes the return of Monty Lee as the associate head coach / hitting coach. Then you have Terry Rooney, who's going to be the pitching coach / recruiting coordinator. And then you have John Hendry from Virginia, who hasn't gotten an official contract yet. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks. He's still in season with Virginia as they're in Omaha for the College World Series this weekend. And he will be the assistant pitching coach, according to Mainieri. But got a lot to talk about with that, along with a few other questions. So without further ado, let's get into the first question this week, which comes from Cox by 20, who asks, was there anyone else who was seriously considered for the baseball coaching position, or did we move quickly with Mainieri? So it's kind of interesting because athletics director Ray Tanner has done a really good job of keeping this coaching search kind of close to the vest a little bit and not revealing too many details. At the introductory press conference for Mainieri on Thursday, Tanner did say there were a lot of really good candidates in mind, but ultimately they went with Mainieri. So I'll give a quick, layman's terms kind of breakdown of how this all went down, at least from what we've heard at Gamecock Central and kind of how Tanner explained it and Mainieri and stuff. So the list of candidates, just off the top of my head, included Cliff Godwin from ECU, Chris Pollard from Duke, Tom Walter from Wake Forest, Monty Lee from South Carolina. Obviously, he was the interim head coach after Mark Kingston got fired almost 2 weeks ago now. And then Landon Powell from North Greenville. And then you have another guy like Josh Elander, the associate head coach / recruiting coordinator at Tennessee. So those were pretty much the general candidates that Gamecock Central and a lot of other media outlets had heard about. Then on Monday, I remember I was just getting home. I've told the story a few times now. I was just getting home from the driving range because I was back home in Fort Mill, hanging out with my brother and stuff. And we had just gone to the driving range for like a few hours just to work on some golf. And then I come back home and I open my computer. I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was getting ready to do some work. I had a story. I was going to do like a basketball story or something. And I see a tweet from Teddy Cahill of Baseball America saying that South Carolina is, targeting Paul Mainieri now. And in my head, I'm like, who's Paul Mainieri? Like, what? That's a completely out of left field type of candidate. Upon doing more research, he's obviously the most qualified candidate you could potentially hire for this job. All right, 6 trips to Omaha, a College World Series championship win in 2009 at LSU. He's one of 13 coaches to take 2 different programs to Omaha. So the resume speaks for itself. But at the same time, it's like he's 66 years old. He's been out coaching for a few years. What's going on here? So after that started circulating, it became clear he was going to be hired. And then Tuesday, he gets hired for the job officially, at the Board of Trustees meeting and all that. And then obviously from doing a little more digging and a little more reading, my good friend Koki Riley from The Advocate newspaper out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Definitely check this story out that I'm about to talk about right here. He talked to Paul Mainieri. I think it was the first exclusive interview after this whole thing, whole announcement came about. And I think he talked to Mainieri about the fact of like, how did this come up? And the story goes, now that it's been told a few times by Ray and Paul and in Koki's story, that Paul had gotten a call from Ray, and in that call, Ray is asking Paul, like, what do you think of these candidates, X, Y, and Z? What do you think? Because obviously Paul's got a 40-year track record and knows talent and has seen a lot of coaching and stuff, and been a springboard to develop the next great coaches in college baseball. So he asks some of that, and then I think in that conversation, it got to where Ray's like, "How's your health been? How you been feeling and stuff?" And one thing led to another, and the conversation eventually became, "How would you like to become coach at South Carolina?" And obviously, Mainieri has that itch to still coach. He was in the conversation for job openings at Notre Dame and Miami over the last few years. Obviously, didn't get those jobs, but now third time's the charm at South Carolina. He takes the job, and that's where we're at. So, kind of a longer answer there, but he is now officially the 31st head coach at the University of South Carolina for the baseball program. And yeah, it's super exciting. And we'll get into more details on the press conference here shortly. We've got a lot of coverage this whole week on the coaching search and the press conferences and stuff. So, definitely, I'll say it later, but be sure to stay locked into GamecockCentral.com as everything kind of gets written up and stuff. Next question comes from Master and Commander. Says, anything exciting happened this week? I mean, I played golf for like the first time in like, geez, like I haven't even like gotten out to the golf course yet this year. I still need to play around this year, but I got back to the driving range as I referenced earlier a little while ago. And honestly, didn't hit too bad. I'm not the greatest golfer. Like I'm not that good at all, but my game is definitely like it's like I'm putting the ball, in the air, which is a big thing, and I'm hitting it well enough. I gotta say the worst part about my game though, and it's kind of embarrassing. The worst part is my driving game. It's awful. Like not good. I can hit with a 5, a 7, a 9, a freaking sand wedge. Like I can hit with all these other clubs just fine. But when it comes to the driver, for some reason, I don't know what it is. It's just a comfort thing. Even my short game's not too bad, but I'm not gonna hype myself up to be this great golfer. I'm really not. But I don't know. My goal is to participate in birdies with Beamer this year if the opportunity presents itself. That's kind of the ultimate goal. That would be fun. But yeah, definitely trying to get out on the golf course a little more. Other than that, anything else exciting happened this week? My birthday's a few weeks away, so that's exciting. But no, nothing crazy. Just normal life. And oh yeah, a few coaches got hired, but it doesn't seem as cool, I guess. So next question comes from Washington Cock, who asks, Jack, are you surprised by the blowback of some of our posters about our new baseball coach? So yeah, this question came earlier in the week on Tuesday before I started answering these questions and stuff. And this is before the press conference. So I feel like a lot of people's main criticism of Mainieri is the fact that he's going to be 67 by the time he coaches his first game at South Carolina, and he hasn't coached in 3 years. And over that 3-year span, a lot has changed. NIL is becoming a big factor in college baseball. You got the transfer portal, high school recruiting, and all that. And then you couple that with the fact that analytics are as big as they are. And I've got a story coming out today, or it should be out by now, but at the time of recording this, but by the time y'all see it, it will definitely be out. So go ahead and read that story. That I basically asked Mainieri my one question that I got yesterday at the press conference. I asked him about analytics and how he kind of feels about like the numbers versus going with gut feel in game situations, and if he's willing to adapt with the times or stick with what's worked over the years. He gave a really great answer, so I'm not going to really spoil it, but go ahead and check out that story on GamecockCentral.com. Shameless plug. It's a great story, in my opinion, but with a great answer. So, but I do have to say, kind of getting back to the question here, I'm not surprised by the blowback. Look, I think this fan base is awesome. I enjoy interacting with everyone on the Insiders Forum and Twitter and all that. And it's a lot of fun. And I love when I get to meet all these, meet people who read my work. It's so sick. It's the coolest thing, man. Like there's nothing better than someone coming up to me and being like, "Hey, man, I love your work." Like that is what I do it for. Like it's so cool. It doesn't happen that often. I'm not like I don't get recognized like that much, but like when I do, it's like it's kind of cool, low key. So, but yeah, so kind of getting back to the answer again, like I said, I'm not surprised. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Some people are gonna just hate just because, and others are going to find the positive in the situation. And this is a home run. This was a great hire by Ray Tanner. And Paul Mainieri is going to do an excellent job in South Carolina. I have no doubt about it. The staff he put in place is fantastic. It's all about the players, though. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Are the players going to be able to execute? And is Mainieri going to be able to identify the type of talent that's needed to get back to Omaha? I think so. And I think he's got a great staff in place to do so. Next question comes from Bill Bryce, who asks, what is Mainieri's coaching style? What have his teams been known for? Hitting, defense, etc. So we haven't really seen him coach. We haven't seen him coach at all at South Carolina yet, quite frankly. But from what I gather, he definitely focuses on a few things. One, RBIs are the most important statistic in his opinion. You need runs to win games. Pretty simple, right? That's good logic. And his coaching style is definitely a little more old school, I guess I would say. Not a ton of home runs, but more of like, not super small ball, but like doing the things that you need to win the game right. Pitch well. If you're pitching well, you gotta have a good defense behind you. I remember him saying that in the press conference yesterday. Gotta be able to play good defense. So hit well, pitch well, defend well. That's kind of the simple formula for how he goes about business. And his teams have been really successful over the years. So it's not really surprising at all that that's the kind of formula. And I think it's a bit refreshing too that it's not just the homer strikeout mentality. Obviously, we'll see how it all comes together when fall ball starts later this year in September. And then once the regular season begins next February, this is the honeymoon phase right now. So we can say all this good stuff about Mainieri, but then once real play starts, it's like, okay, how are we judging this guy like for real? So we'll see what happens. But that's kind of how I envision and see how he's coached over the years. Next question comes from Grandpa Smitty, who asks, what other JUCO players look promising to commit? Can you tell if there are any current LSU players or recruits that possibly flip to us with our new staff? So I quite honestly don't know too much about LSU players that would commit here. Again, there's probably a few players left from Mainieri's time at LSU. He was there last in 2021, so if there are any guys left, they're probably seniors or COVID eligibility guys. So at this point, it's like, how big are his connections? His connections are still strong there. So he definitely could pull some players from LSU, but I'm not sure. As for other JUCO players looking promising to commit, there is some guys that have committed already. Caden Gaskin, I talked to him Thursday before the Mainieri press conference over the phone, and he seems like a really energetic, great kid joining South Carolina as a middle infielder. I think he's going to be slotted in at second base, and that's where he primarily plays. Can play some shortstop too, but that's where I see him. I definitely could see him winning the starting job next season as Parker Nolan will not be back next year. And he's a guy that, raised his batting average over like 130 points, I believe, from his freshman to sophomore year. He hit 400 last year, and he stole 41 bases and I think doubled like almost all his numbers. Like RBIs were way up, hits were way up, doubles were way up too. He had like 21 doubles, and that's in comparison to only having 5 as a freshman. So, and he didn't even hit that bad as a freshman. It's just when you hit 400 and all these other things, it's a major difference. And the fact that he stole 41 bases is awesome to see. So that's definitely a leadoff hitter right there in the making, but we're gonna have to see what happens with that. Other than that, you have a few JUCO pitchers, top 10 JUCO pitchers in the country that are committing to South Carolina. You got Brandon Stone. He is a really solid talent. I mean, he had a 3.28 ERA over 104 innings this past season, and I think that bodes really well for South Carolina. 113 strikeouts as well. Big, tall, right-handed pitcher, 6'6", 220. I think that is going to look great. You also have Brandon Clark. He's a left-handed pitcher, also pretty solid. His ERA is a little higher, but he definitely does a very good job with what he does. And then you have I'm probably not gonna pronounce this right, so Jackson Sochi or Suchi, whatever it is. It's like there's no H in there, so it's like it's hard to pronounce it. it's not going to be Susie. So, but hey, he's Canadian, eh? So, it was a little hard to find stats on him. I've got some like MLB Draft League stuff and Summer Ball League stuff, but I don't know too much about him. Other than that, he's a left-handed relief pitcher, according to Baseball Reference. But and he comes from the Wabash Valley College in Mount Carmel, Illinois. So that'll be interesting. I think those are 3 or 4 solid players that South Carolina's getting from the JUCO ranks. Again, with Mainieri on staff and Terry Rooney being the recruiting coordinator and Monty Lee having his ties in the state of South Carolina, there are definitely a lot more potential guys out there for the taking. And I think they're going to definitely go in and go get a ton of really solid players over the next few weeks. Next question comes from Garnet Country, who asks, how are we doing currently with NIL in terms of baseball? So there's been a really big commitment to NIL, and that's kind of that's the hope over the next, however long time period, is that, there's going to be a big commitment to baseball. And I think we're seeing that with how much the coaches are getting paid and stuff and the investment made in that. And then Garnet Trust is obviously going out there and trying to, get as many donations as possible. So if you're not doing so already, definitely go ahead and donate to Garnet Trust. They do a great job with, setting up player interviews and stuff for us at Gamecock Central. So I'm always appreciative of those guys over there. But it's definitely worth your money. And this is not, just some, something endorsement or whatever to say. But I genuinely do believe that Garnet Trust does a lot of really awesome things. And, I think that you guys should definitely go ahead and donate. If you want to see this baseball program be as good as possible, the money is so, so crucial in today's game. So definitely suggest that. But I think it could be better. And I think it's going to be better. That's the big thing. And it's not like it's been bad or anything. Some make it out to be that it's like bottom of the pack and all that. But again, there's always room for improvement. And I think that South Carolina can definitely be the upper echelon of, baseball recruiting and NIL and transfer portal and all that. So great question, though. Next question comes from MSH1958, who asks, this is a 2-part question, so get ready for it. A, how important do you think retaining Monty Lee was in terms of keeping current players from going in the portal? I'll answer this one question at a time. Monty Lee, the underrated hire of this staff. Bringing him back was so important, and he was definitely fuck, dude. All right, 1750. I cut the part out. But yeah, bringing Monty Lee back was huge, right? He is definitely the underrated hire in this whole process. And he definitely, has the ties to South Carolina in terms of recruiting, and he's on staff, so he knows what goes on from a day-to-day basis. So he's definitely going to help out the new guys joining the fold. In terms of keeping players, we saw a ton of players at the press conference on Thursday, and they definitely seem like, there's a lot of guys that were campaigning for Lee to become the next head coach. Obviously, that didn't happen, but the support for Mainieri is there, obviously, and I think there were a lot of good things that Monty said. I'll have a story on some of that over the weekend, but he's definitely, I think he's happy to serve Paul Mainieri, like he said, and it's about the players at the end of the day, and that's what he cares about. Second part of the question, same question as to keeping recruits from reconsidering their decision to attend USC. So I think Monty, with high school recruiting, it's going to be tough to keep PJ Merlando and Carson Messina. Those guys got invites to the MLB Draft Combine earlier today, and I expect them to go down that route. Same with like Cole Messina and stuff. But the rest of the high school recruits, keeping Monty was crucial, and I think anyone that doesn't have a really high tier draft grade or projection will probably come to South Carolina next year. I think that's just probably what's going to happen. We'll have to see. I'm not super sure what's going to happen, but that's kind of my 2 cents on it. And our final question of the day, this is a good one, it comes from Wild Bunch 2, who asks, do you realize how much more fun your job is going to be. Oh, man. I am having a much better time right now. Quite honestly, I'll make this a little bit quicker of an answer, but this job was definitely it was fun this season. Don't get me wrong. I love covering baseball. It's my favorite sport to cover. And anytime I get to go out and cover a baseball game, it's so cool, man. Like it's so much better than a 9 to 5 desk job or my old jobs of working at an elementary school and teaching 20 kids. That I do not miss. I definitely enjoy the day-to-day life of what I do now, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, this is the best job, and I'm always going to be grateful to Gamecock Central for giving me an opportunity, and not to get super sentimental or anything, but and it's so much fun right now because the coaching search, the firing at Kingston sucked, like straight up. Like you never want to see a coach get fired, but it had to happen, and that's kind of the reality of the situation. And because of that, South Carolina's a lot better off now. And Paul Mainieri is really bringing a good crew with him, and I think they're going to be able to get it done in the near future. And I'm hoping I'm here for a few more years at least to see it through, and that would be unbelievable. I want to go. I want to go to Omaha, man. Like, it stinks that I'm not going to be there this year, and I've never been. So that is one of the crown jewels of bucket list wishes that I wish to reach one day. I do not want to go as a fan. I do not. I need to make that clear. I do. If I'm gonna go to Omaha, I'm going as a reporter. I'm not gonna go as a fan. I will go watch game. Like, I don't know how it works, but if it's anything similar, like the NCAA tournament or the SEC tournament, I will go as a reporter. And in my spare time, I will go watch games as a fan. But I am not paying an exuberant amount of prices just for Omaha. Like, I want to go as a reporter. I want to cover South Carolina going there. That would be so freaking cool. But we're gonna have to see what happens. But this job is a lot more fun right now, and it's cool writing good stories and stuff about the positive side of South Carolina baseball right now. But we'll have to see what happens over the next few weeks. But be sure to stay locked into GamecockCentral.com for all coverage on everything post press conference with Paul Mainieri over the next few weeks and what's ahead for the baseball program. And we're getting into football relatively soon. So I think about a month from now, we will be, SEC media days for football's around the corner. And then, fall camp, it's not far away. It's like first week of August. And we'll have to see what happens with that. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Jack's Mailbag. Again, if you have a question you want answered on next week's episode, be sure to drop it in the comment section below, or I'll have a post on the Insiders Forum on GamecockCentral.com. That's going to do it for me. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see y'all next week.